Imagine living in the bitter aftermath of your nation's collapse, surrounded by the ruins of a broken past, searching for an explanation. These survivors preserved this sobering record to diagnose exactly where their ancestors lost their way, making this text a necessary guide for a people in exile. This passage meticulously tracks the lineages of three distinct groups: Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. This winding river is the Jordan, and these tribes settled in the fertile, highly desirable lands just to the east of its banks. Long before they became a historical warning, these families were a dominant military presence. They possessed expansive territory and the profound blessing of God. So how does a civilization completely backed by divine favor and overwhelming military might end up entirely uprooted, losing their homeland forever? During their apex, these eastern tribes aggressively expanded their borders, clashing directly with fierce nomadic enemies known as the Hagrites. They fielded an army of over 44,000 capable warriors. These men were heavily armed, highly trained, with shields, swords, and bows, and fully prepared for war. But in the absolute heat of combat, they placed no confidence in their own training. Instead, they actively cried out to God, pleading for him to intervene on the battlefield. Because they placed their total trust in him, God answered that plea. He actively disrupted the enemy forces and delivered the Hagrites straight into their hands. That absolute victory stands as proof that these tribes intimately understood and experienced God's active saving grace when their survival was on the line. However, dominating foreign enemies on the battlefield did not translate into internal moral stability at home. The spiritual decay started at the top of their family tree. Reuben committed a severe moral failure by defiling his father's bed. Because of that action, Reuben suffered a permanent consequence. The birthright of the firstborn was completely severed from his line and transferred to the sons of Joseph. The half-tribe of Manasseh followed a similar path of self-destruction. Despite producing generations of highly respected, mighty men of valor, they committed an even deeper betrayal. They acted treacherously against the God who had repeatedly saved them, choosing instead to worship the pagan idols of the surrounding nations. This ancient stone relief depicts the kings of Assyria. Because of Manasseh's idolatry, God stirred up this exact empire to conquer the eastern tribes and drag them away as prisoners. A massive standing army and a history of divine miracles offer zero protection when internal loyalty to God is compromised. Look at these vast, empty, arid mountains. This sweeping desolation represents the permanent reality for those eastern tribes. To this day, they remain lost in exile. The author of 1 Chronicles carefully documented this tragedy to hold a mirror up to the exiled Judeans of his own time. The warning is severe. Experiencing a miraculous rescue or profound divine grace in your past does not permanently immunize you against future judgment. That ancient text forces anyone reading it today to turn the lens inward and evaluate their own spiritual endurance. If I have experienced God's grace and salvation, has it actually produced a tangible, lasting change in how I live? Can I sustain that transformation? Or am I in danger of slowly assimilating into the idols of my own culture? A genuine encounter with God's grace requires a lifetime of continuous daily faithfulness to ensure we don't end up wandering in a spiritual exile of our own making.